Welcome to the Entrepreneurial Biome podcast, a space for nurturing the ecosystem of business, body, and living. What would it be like if you gave your body a leadership role in your business and chose greater happiness every day? These are the conditions that create a healthy biome and a thriving business. I'm your host, Heather Nichols, and I'm so happy you're here. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Entrepreneurial Biome podcast. I am with you this week from Paris, beautiful Paris, and really happy to be here. I'm here for a body whispering class with Dr. Dane here, spending a week here before I go on to Berlin and then Rome. So happy to be in Europe. I love being in Europe. My body loves being in Europe. And I wanted to continue today with more on body tools. So we talked last week about fascia. We went and took a little bit of a dive into fascia and the tool of bowspring movement and neurology, biology, and creation, and just how our fascia, and if you didn't hear last week's episode, fascia is absolutely amazing tissue in the body that wraps everything, muscles, nerves, bones. It wraps all of our connective tissue, and it is a huge, actually, part of our health, of our structural aliveness and thriving, and it can be a lot of what causes pain, or like how fascia is held can lead to pain, and it can also when we change our fascia, when we be with our fascia and we move it and we mold it and sculpt it and change it and lubricate it and all of these things, it can really change every area of our life. And the tool that I wanted to bring this week is actually to share. I want to talk more about fascia because I'm fascinated with it right now. And I have been for a while. And I love playing with my own fascia. I do a lot of body work on myself. And so one of the tools that is one of my absolute favorite go-to everyday tools that I use is called ESSE, ESSE. ESSE is an acronym for Energetic Synthesis of Structural Embodiment, and it is a specialty area within Access Consciousness, and it is about working with the fascia hands-on and melting the fascia, and really melting along with, as we melt the fascia, we melt the judgments really that are held in place by fascia. And fascia has a huge energetic piece, a huge energetic component to it. And the way that our bodies are organized, and what holds our bodies together, what holds everything in our bodies together is fascia. And so the way that our bodies are organized, and like structurally, like I have this thing where I have like my right leg is, it appears to be shorter than my left leg. It's not actually a bone length issue. It's a connective tissue issue. And it's not an issue. It's just information that my body gives me. But one of the things that I work a lot with the right side of my body, and I work with the fascia on the right side. So that is actually, and last week I was sharing a body story. And I guess this is sort of a story, but one of the things I've been doing a lot lately, and the body work that I've been receiving, the movement work that I've been doing, like the bowspring work that I shared last week, and then also in my own body work that I do with myself, is really like actually focusing more on the right side of my body and working with it more, because it just in this moment it requires more attention. And there's a real misunderstanding in with a lot of body work that, you should address both sides, like you should address the body, both sides of the body equally. Well, for me, that's not true. Bodies are not really symmetrical. They're not, they kind of seem like they should be. And maybe some people think that's the ideal or whatever, but they're not symmetrical. And so there's different things going on different sides of the body, and the sides of the body affect each other. And we have to address the whole body and like look and see like what is required and where. And sometimes what's required on one side is really different than on the other. And the way that we find these things out about our bodies is by being with them. And there's so many there's so many things that I want to talk about. And I guess this is just one podcast, so I gotta remind myself of that. Because again, I find this whole area just so interesting, and the way that it translates into how we live, how we bring ourselves to relationships, the aliveness that we have, how we move in the world, how we create our businesses, all part of the entrepreneurial biome. And I wanted to devote more time, right now at least, to the body, because to me, if there's something going on with your body, it's going to be very difficult for you to really show up as fully as you can in your life and your business and with everything that you're creating. And we all know that, like, if you're sick, if you don't feel well, that's going to really impact how you are. You can't be as present with your relationships and your work life, things like that. It's just, that's a very commonly understood thing, right? So, but if we take it from, because being sick and not feeling well, that's a very obvious thing, and it's kind of it makes sense. It's very when you don't feel well, it's you can't do as much, and that's just a given in a lot of ways. But there are also so many subtler forms of that, where we get into like subtleties in our bodies and the structure of the body. And sometimes you might notice it in the form of pain or some sort of limitation, but not always. The body is, our bodies are so incredibly brilliant, and they adapt to so many things. They're adaptable, and they adapt. And they get creative with how they hold themselves in space. And there's just so many ways that our bodies know how to adjust and adapt and, compensate for things. So you may not even know, like you could have something major going on with your body and not necessarily know about it. And that is, it's a bit of a side note, but it's like, that's a source for a lot of fear mongering in the whole medical world. It's like, you can't, you can't trust yourself. You can't trust your body. You got to trust your doctor. Which to me is, for me, I do consider myself the expert on my body. I don't see anybody else on the planet as more of an expert on my body. And that includes all doctors. I don't care how much information you have about medicine. You don't have the internal information that I have about my own body. And part of that is because I'm very, very present with my body. I'm very attentive to it. And I am with it all the time. And that's one of the things that I've really cultivated over the years through all the different things that I've done. I've really been working with my own body and bodies. I mean, I started dancing when I was 2, and I was, always been very in my body. I was an athlete in a lot of different ways growing up. I did ballet, I did cheerleading, I did diving, I did all the things, that kind of stuff. And dance and yoga and running and, kind of solo athletics. And have always, and, recently figure skating. And that's always been, a big source of, for me, like moving my body is a huge way that I get present with it. And I also get information from it. But also, I was a somatic psychotherapist. So I was a body-centered psychotherapist for 13 years and taught dance classes. And so I got a lot of information from that. And really my journey with somatic psychotherapy, my training as a somatic psychotherapist, and if you're not familiar with that word, somatic basically means of the body. So and the body mind connection kind of a thing. So my training as a somatic psychotherapist required me, actually, like the way that I trained was to get very, very present with my own body and learn how to do that and learn how to be with it and learn how to listen to it and talk to it and get information from it. And so, this isn't something that we're taught in the world as, growing up. And so cultivating presence with our bodies is a huge part of what allows us to actually then, know what our bodies require and how to give that to them and to be able to, like, for me to be able to do body work with my own body, it requires a lot of like being present and listening, and getting feedback all the time, and with other bodies as well. And um, so a couple things I'll get to. I'm taking a wide berth here. I tend to do that. I'm very ADD, ADHD. So, if you've been listening for any length of time, you probably figured that out by now. um, but access consciousness came along. About 13 years into my journey as a somatic therapist. I found access consciousness, which is a huge, amazing body of work that is really energetic. It's energetic, very pragmatic, and sometimes very weird in the most wonderful way. Tools for changing anything you'd like to change, creating anything you'd like to create in your life and as the world. And there's some really amazing body tools in access consciousness, and one of them is the body processes. So the access consciousness body processes are these hands-on energies that we use with our bodies and with other bodies, and they're very, most dynamic when you can run them on another body and you can receive somebody else running them on you. Touch is so powerful our own touch is amazing, and being able to touch other bodies with space and no agenda and being present and kindness and caring is a huge gift. And that's one of the great gifts of the access consciousness body processes. So it's basically energy work. You lay on a table or, wherever you may be, and someone puts their hands on you and they run a process. They ask the process to run, and it runs. And you just feel the energy moving, and there's a lot of different processes, and they all create different energetic shifts and changes and realities in the body. And there's a 3-day body class that it has some prerequisites, so you have to have done some other classes in Access. But the 3-day body class to me is it's this amazing universe of it really is like a universe unto itself, where you spend 3 days, running the processes. There's about 60 in this manual that you get, and you're on and off the table for 3 days. Giving a session, receiving a session, giving a session, receiving a session. That's what we do for 3 days, is give and receive sessions. And you don't have to know anything about energy work or body work to actually be really gift to somebody else's body. These are energies that just really they're natural to so many of us. They're intuitive and they're natural and they're sort of like, I always feel like my body remembers, when I receive processes, it's like, oh yeah, that energy. And so the body processes, I wanted to mention this, even though said I was going to talk about ESSE, which I will. But the body processes are one of the big ways that, for me, I have really been able to get a lot more present with my body. And I was already very present with my body when I started Access Consciousness, because of all the other work that I had done. And they allow me more and more all the time to have even more presence. And presence with our bodies is like, I would say it's kind of like the key to a lot of these conversations that we have here on the Entrepreneurial Biome podcast, because and really a huge part of the biome is that you be present with you. Because if you can't be present with your body and your life, then there's a whole lot of stuff that's going to happen, that you're going to choose, that you're going to do, that's going to seem like it kind of passes you by, that you won't notice, and a lot of people in the world, they desire to just sort of go to sleep. And so there's, when you start to get present, it's not always easy. It's not always like, oh, how wonderful, I'm present with my body now, and that's where, like old traumas can come up, really uncomfortable, feelings and sensations and awareness and things like that. All that stuff can come up when you're like present in a way that you haven't been before. And it can be really scary for people to have that going on. But that's actually a huge part of as we navigate through that, and usually getting present is sort of scarier before you're present, and when you're getting present, then once you're present, it's like, oh, that's not so bad. It's actually way better, way easier. And it might still be uncomfortable, but it's in a different way, because all of a sudden you've given yourself access to more of you. And so I find a lot of times for people, it's more the lead up to like getting present that's scary, especially when it involves the body. And our bodies have a lot of stories, a lot of trauma, a lot of, judgment we've impelled at our own bodies, and that's been impelled at our bodies from being in the world. There's a lot of that going on with our bodies, and in our bodies, that gets held in our bodies. And so, once we start to get present, sometimes it can feel like opening a can of worms. And yet, if you really stay present and you really are willing to go there, it's like so many things can really begin to shift in ways that you weren't able to get to before. And so the access consciousness body processes, there's so many gifts of those processes, but one of them is really this, like being with our bodies, being present with our bodies, and being able to be present with other bodies as well. And that translates into so many things. I mean, how you are as a parent with your children and their bodies, and how you are in the world, and our sexual lives. Like, there's just so many places where the ability to be present with other bodies, it seems like it's not something that would be valuable to just like the general public, but we all have bodies, it's like, so to be present with your body and somebody else's body in whatever way that may be, what a gift. And it can also be, I mean, I know for me, bodies talk to me a lot in the world, because I'm present with bodies, and bodies energetically give me a lot of information. Sometimes that's not the easiest thing to be aware of, because a lot of bodies are kind of crying out for help, and I tend to hear those cries. So that's its own thing, but that's part of why I also love working with bodies, is because I can I can perceive what's going on the inside energetically in my own unique way, and how that translates into a lot of different things, a lot of different areas of life, and so, to be present with a body that is on my table or that I'm working with in whatever way, that's really cool. Because then I can actually, it really contributes to the work that I can do with people and their bodies. And so as we get more present with our bodies, and we start to get more information, one of the things that has really, it's a big part of access consciousness, and it's been really amazing for me to embark upon this particular journey, is realizing our bodies, like, there's so much judgment that we bring to our bodies that really inhibits their capacity to thrive. And that judgment can be, when we think of body judgment, we think of, like, judging their size. That's a big one, their shape and size. Almost everybody has judgments about how their body looks. Let's just put it like that. How their body looks. But it's also, judgments about our bodies also include, we judge how they function, we judge, like, how they're supposed to be, and that includes, like, from a health perspective, like, all bodies are supposed to do this, all bodies are supposed to do this. If you're sick, it means this. If you're, and that's really not how bodies tend to work. I mean, the medical world has very much, has a lot of massively sweeping generalizations about how bodies function based on research and things like that. But a lot of, like, the bodies evolve. Like, let's not forget that, we are part of an evolutionary process, and that's not done. Like, evolution is not over now that we're here. I always find it funny that, people think, like, evolution isn't still happening. It totally is still happening. That's the nature of things. It's the nature of nature, part of the biome, right? And so we can evolve our bodies. We can receive the evolution of our bodies, and we can also facilitate it. But we have to be aware that it's happening, and we have to be curious about it, because our bodies have their own, they know a lot about a lot of things, and they give us a lot of information. We just tend to not pay attention. And so when we judge, like, this is how bodies are, this is how my body is, this is how it should be, this is how it's supposed to function, we aren't in question with our bodies, and we don't, we're not in the curiosity of, like, well, what's true for this particular body, my particular body, because you're going to get a lot more information with a lot more clarity and precision, really, if you are present with your body, or whatever body you may be working with, if you work with bodies. And to ESSE, let's go back to the ESSE conversation. ESSE, so one of the things about the fascia is that the fascia tends to hold all of these things in place. And that's why I took that huge detour, because I wanted to talk about that, because the judgments of, how our bodies are supposed to function, how they age, when they age, that aging is even a thing. Judgments of, I look like shit, I look da 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 da, how we look, all these things, all kinds of judgments, and those are just like a few that are popping off the top, are actually part of what causes the fascia to be adhesed and limited and contracted and gummed up, and not like dried up too. Fascia can be dehydrated, and then it's really limited in its ability to be supple and movable. So judgments, it's sort of like, the way I see it, at least, is that judgments kind of cause that. They're part of the cause of that, and that also, when the fascia gets gummed up in different places in the body, which it is for all of us, it also holds those judgments in place. And so when we undo these adhesions and we undo like the places where the fascia is held tight, contracted, constricted, not well lubricated, all these things, we also release like any judgments that are held in place. By that, we actually undo that. So it's a really incredible way of actually freeing up, not just our bodies, but our lives. And so one of the things about ESSE is that, so the way that ESSE is done is it's a hands-on process, energetic synthesis of structural embodiment. I love that. And you just, you basically put your hands on the body somewhere and you ask ESSE to run the energies of ESSE. And what happens is we start to, the fascia actually, the consciousness of our bodies and the consciousness of the fascia actually invites you in, and it will show you where to go. It'll be like, hey, and it's like you just stay present, and if you're not thinking, if you're not trying to solve something or trying to correct something, the fascia will show you, and it will lead you, and it will invite you to where is the greatest possible place that you can go to actually undo a lot of this, the limitations and the judgments. And the cool thing is when you undo it in the body, you undo it in your world, you undo it in your mind, and vice versa. So there's a lot of connections here, and this is how the biome flourishes even greater. And the amazing thing about it is, when you do ESSE, or have ESSE done or whatever, it's like all of a sudden, everything can be different, not just how your body is functioning. And I've been, actually, part of what inspired me to do this is I got to Paris last night, and I've actually been kind of in this like extended ESSE session with myself. There's so many things that are unwinding in my body right now, from all kinds of different things I've been doing. And so much, I'm like playing so much with my own fascia right now, and seeing how it's, all of these things that I'm talking about, it's like this all massive unwinding of things in every area of my life. And from just the fascia. And so I've been, so I got here and I was, a little kind of just got off the plane, and so started to do some work on myself. And it's just been like leading, like my body's been like, how about here? Now go here, like showing me and leading me into all these different places. And one thing after another. And I'm like, wow, it's just been this incredible journey. In the past, I don't know, 20 or so hours, I did sleep as well. And it's not like I've been doing it the whole time, but just like little, sessions with myself, even, here talking to you guys, like I play with, like, I got my hand on my leg right now. I was working on my ankle earlier. So the cool thing about it is you can do it. You can do it on yourself at any time if you learn it. You have to, take a class to learn it. But you can do it on yourself anytime. Like I woke up this morning, it was early. It was 5 a.m. I was grateful I slept a nice 5 hours, getting on a new time zone. But I was like, I can't sleep right now, but I want to stay in bed, and I'm just going to run some, do some ESSE. And so I just started working on my hands working on each other, and just, playing with the fascia. And literally when you play with your own fascia, it's literally like you can like sculpt your body into a different reality. It's so freaking cool. I just find it so fascinating. Our bodies are so much more mutable and changeable and moldable and sculptable than we think they are. And and if you are willing to have that kind of presence with your body, cultivate that kind of presence with your body, you can. It's like right now, like my big toe was talking to me. I'm like, ooh, okay. So now I'm playing with my big toe, doing some ESSE on my big toe. And, a lot of times, like this can, because the fascia is it's so interconnected I would say in the world, which is a story, definitely a story for another time, and probably not for a podcast, because there's some really cool kind of esoteric things we can get into that maybe esoteric isn't the right word, but way deeper kind of energetic conversations about fascia that I am just blown away by. And what I perceive energetically with fascia that goes way beyond just our bodies. But like right now, it's like I was working on my leg earlier, and then because it's also connected in our bodies. So if you like, say you have like have some props to model this in an easier visual way, but I don't have them with me. But if you, let's just say, even with my sweater here, like if I pull, here on my sweater, it's going to get tight over here, right? And if I keep it like this, it's going to, even now you can see there's a little bump there. If you're listening to this, you're not going to see, but I just like pulled the, arm on my sweater. And I can still even see a little bump there, after the fact. So now imagine, tissue in our bodies that's very moldable and very influenced by the energetics of things and our minds and, all these like environmental factors, all these things. And I want to say also, like, side note, it's not about getting your fascia to like a static place where it's just perfect, because that's not possible. I mean, it's not, I would say, not even desirable. It's like we get to just we live, things change, things shift. We, get to evolve. Evolution is a really amazing thing to participate in consciously, and to create, actually, because we can be on the creative edge of evolution, with our bodies and our lives. And I think it's one of the coolest things about having a body and being alive is that. So also, a lot more I could say about that, but I won't at this moment. But the point is, if the fascia in one part of the body gets pulled, it's going to pull everything else, right? And so I was working in some places with myself today where I found like some pretty big adhesions, like places where it's like gunked up. And I was like, wow, this is like the mother load, some really unlikely places where I was working in my hip, where I was like, I could feel it all the way up into my belly. And then like right now, my big toe, started talking, and I was like, that's related to my hip, because if there's adhesions up there, it's going to pull on my whole leg. Part of why my right leg seems to be shorter is because there's a lot of fascial pull that happens. It's a lot of where it centers is in my right hip. So, and like I have a really big adhesion in my ankle that I've been working with. And it's like that can pull down on the hip, and the hip can pull up on that. And my whole leg shortens, and so it's just amazing. And then you go to just this one spot, and it's like you melt it and you unwind it, and it translates through your whole body and your whole life. You melt the judgments that hold the fascial limitations in place in one part of your body, and those judgments are free to go, from your body, from your life, and now you get to show up in the world in a different way. I talked a lot more about that specifically last week. So you may want to go back to that the episode before this if you haven't listened to it already, kind of how that occurs. But I wanted to really highlight body work actually today, because it's such an essential part of, for me, it's actually a really essential part of the biome, and body work specifically with the fascia. Massage is amazing. I love receiving massages from really skilled massage therapists. I do have some people in my life that give amazing massages. Um, and for the most part, it doesn't address the fascia in the way that, specific, like fascia specific work does. And ESSE is, a form of hands-on work that works with the fascia. And Bowspring, I talked about last week, is a movement system that works with the fascia, reshaping your own fascia, reorganizing it through your movement. Very, very, very different type of movement than anything I've ever done. I can actually feel my fascia reshaping and changing through Bowspring in a way that I've never sensed with any other movement that I've done. And I've done a lot of different types of movement. So the way that Bowspring is organized is, it gets to fascia in a really different way, which is cool. There's another form of work that I've been doing recently called kinetics, which is really amazing. Also fascia, working with the fascia. And I'm not going to go into that right now, but I'll have the lady who developed it is amazing. Her name is Alicia Celeste. I'm going to see if she might want to come and have a chat with me about it soon. So more on that. Kinetics is really cool because it really, one of the ways that kinetics works is actually by, there's like shearing that you do with the fascia, and we can talk more about this if hopefully Alicia will come and talk to me. um, but um, but it works with actually moving the body. And one of the things I've learned and I've discovered with my own body is that fascia actually changes really very dynamically when it's moving. So bringing movement to the body while you're working with it can be really incredible. And kinetics is a huge part of my awareness of that. And that's a big part of how kinetics works. So we'll have more of a chat on that later. And you may not be a body worker, and you also may not be somebody who's even interested in learning this stuff or doing it on yourself. And that's fine. And, if you may not be listening too, if that's the case, but you can receive the work, you can receive, ESSE, kinetics, Bowspring, you can do Bowspring. That's something you can just do, through taking classes, and there's lots of stuff available online. But I think it's just good to know about, because all of these things are, I mean, and this is like, I don't know how much I would even talk about this on this podcast, but, and maybe I will get more into this, but there's so much that goes on in our bodies with our health that is actually, a direct, that if we change the fascial network, we change the fascial systems and the way the fascia is organized, we can change all kinds of things. There's all kinds of health issues that can change when the fascia changes. And that doesn't, I probably would be hard pressed to find many, if any, doctors in the world that would agree with me. And that's fine. I have a different point of view. But the fascia just, it affects our organs. Because it wraps our organs. So if you've got adhesions in one area and it's pulling on the fascia that wraps organs, those organs are probably going to be stressed, so it's just incredible what changes when we really start to address the fascia and shift it. And so, yeah, so that's today. That's this podcast. And I do a lot of work with fascia. I do a lot of work with bodies. So if you're, in the same, I travel a lot too. So if we're in the same city and you want some body work, you can go to my website and see, or message info@heathernichols.com, heathernichols.com being my website, and see, where I'm going to be, and, if I'm going to be in your area. I also do private intensives. I love doing private intensives with people. That's kind of what I've been doing with myself today, I guess, in the past 24 hours, is a bit of a private intensive with myself in this sweet little apartment in the 7th arrondissement in Paris, as I kind of just land here and get ready for the festivities that are about to start tomorrow with classes. But I love doing private intensives with people, because I get to really dive into this as one tiny, entry point into a way bigger conversation with people about their lives and their bodies. And you don't have to necessarily know what's going on with your fascia to receive change with it. It can be cool to, I just find it really interesting. But you may not, but you might want to just feel better, and you might want to have an easier time with your body, and have less pain, and have more vitality, and have that, translate into a greater reality with your business and your relationships. And, so private sessions and private intensives with me are a really fun way to dive into that, and start to have a totally different experience with all of this stuff, because it's all connected. It's all part of your unique, amazing, beautiful biome. And the one thing I know about bodies is they can become greater every day. I love creating that reality with my own body. I don't believe in aging. I do believe in generation of bodies, and evolution, and vitality, and all of those things. And so, yeah, there's so many incredible tools that we can use to facilitate that. And I just, I'm a geek. Obviously, I'm a total geek on these things, because I just love to play in that way. And I love to play with, not just my own body, but other bodies as well. So maybe we will play together sometime. But there's lots of information. We'll put it in the show notes about ESSE and ESSE classes. And I think we'll put Bowspring in there again. And I'll see if I can get the lovely kinetics lady to come on and chat with me, because she's got some really brilliant awareness about fascia, and she's developed some really cool stuff, and see where we go. So thanks so much for being here, and enjoy. And what if you could be more present with your body today than ever? And it really is just a choice. It's just like, okay, cool. I'm gonna have that. I'm gonna be that. I'm gonna do that. And ask your body to show you, what it's capable of, what it knows, what it desires, what you can contribute to it, and then be willing to listen and follow that when you have the awareness. And you know, just start wherever you are, start and see what shows up. And this is something I've been doing for, I guess, maybe 27 years, very deliberately, very consciously, through all of the things that I've studied and chosen, and all the different types of work I've done with bodies, and really my whole life, because I've just always been one of those weirdos that really enjoys, like profoundly enjoys, having a body. And why not? Our bodies are such an incredible gift, and let's enjoy them. Like, we can. That's a possibility. Let's enjoy them. Okay, thanks everybody. See you next time. Thank you for joining me for the Entrepreneurial Biome podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, share, and subscribe. For more resources, check out my website at heathernichols.com and my social media channels as well. Have a beautiful day, and remember that your business thrives when you do.